With a metric ton of crazy characters, stages, and game mechanics, both versions of Marvel vs. Capcom 3 have been responsible for countless hype-inducing moments, especially Ultimate. This game is nearly 15 years old as of me recording this, and it's still being actively played all around the world. But with all of these features come issues, as it couldn't have been easy for the developers to implement them all. If you're not in the know, Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is quite the buggy game, and both versions feature glitches specific to them that I promise you aren't ready for. There are so many glitches in fact that I can't include them all in this one video, so I've decided to focus on the most important ones, plus some smaller ones that I really wanted to include. We'll be going over how they work, what causes them to happen, and how you can do them at home. And before we begin, I'd like to give a big shout out to the glitches thread on the now defunct Shoryuken forums, as well as Desk's YouTube channel. This page contains heaps of amazing information relating to Marvel 3's glitches, and Desk has been uploading crazy glitch and combo videos for eons, so I recommend checking these resources out if you're interested. Okay, without further ado, let's glitch our way over to vanilla Marvel vs. Capcom 3. It wouldn't be right to not start with the iconic DHC glitch, made famous by this video of Chris Hu explaining how it works.
What is DHC glitch? That means you can do a combo into another combo with a super, but that combo is not landing any combo, but when he knocked down, it's still a combo, you understand?
Hell no, what the fuck did you say?
That explanation will triumph over anything I have to say about this technique, but I'll do my best to explain it anyway. Firstly, why would you do the DHC glitch in the first place? If you aren't aware, Marvel vs. Capcom 3 features what's known as hit stun deterioration, which is a way to prevent infinite combos from taking place. Basically, the longer your combo goes on for, the less hit stun your attacks do, so the enemy will eventually pop out of the combo if you haven't found a way to avoid this. As the aggressor, you'd obviously want to avoid a combo that ends prematurely, so finding a combo route that goes on for as long as possible is ideal. Normally, the only way to reset the opponent's hit stun and damage scaling is for a combo to end, and here's where the DHC glitch comes in. Put simply, it's a way for you to reset the opponent's hit stun and damage scaling while still keeping them in a combo. The way that it works is pretty simple, and many popular characters can easily make use of it. When you're doing a combo, place the enemy into a capture state and then input a super. During this cinematic, DHC into another character in a way that doesn't do any damage. Whiffing a counter super or powering up via an install are realistic ways one can do this, and once you return to neutral, continue the combo. You can see that when this technique is performed, the damage scaling and hit stun deterioration resets, allowing you to continue the combo without worrying about it dropping early. As far as I know, this works because the game expects a DHC to keep dealing damage to the enemy, so if you don't, the combo quote-unquote resets. I mean, if you have the enemy in a combo, you wouldn't have a DHC into something that doesn't hit them, right? Despite the DHC glitch existing in a game that had less than 1 year of competitive play, it still echoes throughout the halls of fighting game history, mostly because of the Chris Hu video, but even outside of that context, it wasn't hard to find it being used in high-level play. A shell that I use in both Vanilla and Ultimate is Wolverine and Dante. Normally you would put Wolverine first and use Dante Assist and DHC routes as a second character to score more damage, but in Vanilla, it's often better to put Dante first to set up the DHC glitch. High damage characters like Wolverine and Taskmaster make fantastic use of this approach to the game, and it means that you can take out any character for the low price of 2 bars. This strategy was removed from Ultimate for balancing reasons, and even though there are many infamous bugs in Marvel 3, I think the DHC glitch is what players remember most fondly. First seen in a set between Chris G and Rogue Yoshi, Dante's Quicksilver glitch is a technique that only existed in vanilla, and it looks wild. In all my years of playing Marvel 3, I've tried to understand how this works by watching the clip over and over, but I've never been able to decipher the madness and figure it all out. Until now. I did some research, and luckily for us, the Wayback Machine has an old forum from 2011 that explains how this maneuver works. In a lengthy post from Rogue Yoshi himself, it's explained that the way this glitch works is similar to Alpha 3's crouch cancelling to avoid a neutral state, except here you are continuously using style changes to avoid the neutral state and stay in THC startup super pause, leading to hit stun / block stun infinites which basically have no escape options from anywhere on the screen. If that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to you, then don't worry, we're in the same boat, but after reading it some more, I think I can explain it. You see how Dante is continuously attacking in the video? This is entirely intentional, as if he ever stops and returns to a neutral state, the glitch will immediately end, and this tells us that constant movement is crucial. But it can't be any type of movement, however. Dante has to do million stabs, cancel into launch, cancel that into clay pigeon, cancel that into stinger, and then cancel that into million stabs, repeating the cycle. If it sounds confusing and pretty tricky, it's because it is, and the constant style changes are what allows the glitch to take place. Part of Dante's appeal in Marvel 3 is not only his extensive move list, but the ways in which players can chain these attacks together, so taking this to its most extreme and using it for a glitch is awesomely evil. Now's about where I would explain how you can initiate this glitch, but to be honest, I've never been able to do it. It's clear to see that Dante imports Cold Shower, calls into Team Super, and then cancels that into Stinger, but I'm unable to get this to work. I'm running version 1.0 of vanilla for this video with zero patches or DLC or anything like that, so I'm confident it's just a skill issue on my part, and even though I would love to try this out for myself, my timing just isn't there. The Quicksilver glitch should work with any team combination you wish to use, as long as it has Dante on it, so I recommend trying it out for yourself if you have access to Vanilla Marvel 3, because just like the DHC glitch, this bug was also removed. I totally understand why though, as it's about as subtle as Wolverine's body odor, but watching this again takes me back to when I was a kid. Man, I miss Vanilla. Moving on to a glitch that I can actually do. Our next offering involves everyone's favorite robot top tier, Zero. Speaking of Zero, it's always devastating to be on the receiving end of one of his combos, especially if it's a happy birthday, and especially if he has Sogenmu activated. This super is like Yoon's Ganajin in Street Fighter, in that it clones him, giving Zero access to solo unblockables, new combo routes, increased damage, etc., but this also comes with some technical issues. If you're in a situation like this and decide to snap in your opponent's third character, you can do just that with no issues, but what if you slightly mess up the timing, just ever so slightly? You've now doomed Zero to a lifetime of loneliness, a timeline where no one can or will come to put him out of his misery. This was first documented by Desk, who uploaded a video demonstrating how to perform the glitch in great detail. The science behind it involves two factors, a happy birthday and Sogenmu. After striking both characters with crouching heavy to slightly knock them into the air, activate Sogenmu. Wait a bit for the point character to hit the ground and then input a snapback. The main Zero will whiff, but his clone's attack will connect, triggering the bug. Since you've snapped the assist character out in an unorthodox way, the game gets confused on who to bring in next, and it starts to argue with itself about the matter. This means that you have all the time in the world to explore the stage, and going backwards can pull the camera back further than it's meant to go. You can freely do whatever you want here, including doing a super or a hard tag. I can't say the same for the enemy, however, as they are locked out of any and all controls for the remainder of the game. It's so bad to the point where you can't even enter the training dummies recording early. You have to wait for the full 10 seconds to lapse because the game won't detect your input to stop the recording. Even supers that track the entire screen like Gravity Squeeze have no effect. I also tried teleporting to the enemy's position with Dante, but he always appears at the right side of the screen. As far as I can tell, there's no way to see the opponent's characters anymore, but at least we can see Dante's airplay travel across the whole screen. No tournament would ever allow this glitch to be legal, so the only chance you'll have to go for it is in a casual match, and even then you'd only want to do it for trolling purposes. It's very unlikely to naturally occur, and in the rare instance that it does, going back to character select will fix it. That's really all there is to it if I'm being honest, as just about anyone can do this glitch, and its effects are immediately obvious. This next bug is one that I had completely forgotten about, and after trying it out for myself, it's a lot of fun. On the character select screen, pick Ryu for either your second or third slot, and make sure that you've chosen his Tatsumaki Senpokyaku assist. Now, when the enemy strikes you, perform a crossover counter and X-Factor immediately. Ryu will now be stuck in the air for an extended period of time, totally breaking the space-time continuum. Once up here, you can't move or do any specials or supers, but normals and team supers are still performable. Ironically, this glitch makes Ryu even worse due to the removal of his already lackluster movement tools, so there's no real strategic use for it. I'm also a bit confused as to how this process works in the first place, but I believe you're X-Factor cancelling the animation of Ryu jumping onto the screen. This sounds simple, but X-Factor cancelling in the air wasn't in Vanilla. Rather, it was introduced in Ultimate, so I'm not sure why Air X-Factor carries over for this specific assist. My theory is that since the assist itself is a grounded Tatsu, the game thinks Ryu is on the ground when he's jumping in, allowing X-Factor to be activated by the player, but that still doesn't explain why other characters can't do it as well. Perhaps there's something wrong with the programming of Ryu's assist specifically? I'm not too sure, but what I do know is that this glitch looks super funny. The earlier you X-Factor dictates how much distance above the ground Ryu will be, so try to activate as early as possible for maximum hilarity. What I also find interesting is how Ryu automatically falls to the ground after a while. Desk mentioned something called an inactivity timer in his video description, so this could be a sort of fail-safe the developers included to prevent bugs like this from lasting forever. On the flip side, grabbing the enemy will also make them stuck in the air, so you can make this glitch even crazier if you feel like going down the chaotic neutral route. It gets even wilder, however, as if you set the training dummy to block everything, you can get them frozen in its block animation. The most interesting part about this is that even though Captain America supposedly cannot air dash, he can here. She-Hulk can do this too, and I wonder why only these two can do it. As a quick history lesson, very early Marvel 3 footage indicates that just like Tatsunoko vs Capcom, every character in the game was said to have an air dash as a universal mechanic, but this was removed in the final version of Marvel 3. Despite this, the air dash animation still exists in the final game, and I feel like we need to move on before I get sucked even deeper down into this rabbit hole. The bottom line is that the float glitch is very fun to use, and I'd suggest trying it out to surprise your friends. Okay, this glitch is perhaps the most evil, as it involves a supervillain mercilessly crashing your console. At this point in Marvel 3's life, I'm confident that we're all familiar with Dr. Doom's hidden missiles, and many people, myself included, consider this to be the best assist in the whole game. Manually inputting this move on point seems easy because you just press back and mash heavy, right? But in reality it's quite tricky, as it has a crap ton of startup that leaves Doom open, but if you can cover him with an assist from far away, you should be okay. By spamming the attack button, you can summon up to 8 homing missiles, but what if you want to break the limits and have even more? Luckily for you, there's a way to do just that. Okay, you see how Doom clicks his fingers with his right hand when he summons a missile? The trick is to wait for this to finish and then press the button again right before his right arm connects with his left arm. If you do it too late, the missile silo will play this animation, and this means that you've messed it up. Do it properly, however, and you can put a lot of missiles into storage, with there being no limits at all. Seriously, you can summon as many missiles as you want, causing massive frame rate drops in the process. Doing around 15 of these reps will cause over 100 missiles to spawn, and going for even more reps will cause your poor console to kick the bucket. Not literally, of course, your console will just restart, but still, this is something you don't want to see when you're playing a game. If you combine this technique with Advancing Guard, you can have up to 3 missile silos on screen, significantly increasing your chip damage, especially when X Factor is in the play. The downsides to this glitch are that it takes a strong sense of timing, meaning that it's hard to get down consistently, and even if you can do it every single time, it will never happen in a real match. No enemy is going to sit there long enough for you to get more than 2 or 3 reps of this, so I see how this bug made its way into the final game. Overall, this glitch is really fun to do in training mode for 5 minutes before you'd want to go back to playing real matches, but I still can't get enough of it because of how silly it is. It's really fun to do. On the other hand, this current glitch is one that used to happen in real matches, especially when playing online. As Deadpool and Trish are 2 newcomers who specialize in keep away and zoning, players who love that strategy might be interested in using these characters on the same team, and if they did, there was a deadly bug they could use to get easy wins. By selecting Trish's Peekaboo Assist and calling it right before Deadpool's Cutting Time Super connected in the corner, you can cause the enemy to have a permanent seizure once the cinematic ends, completely stripping away their control. Eventually, they'll fall into the ground while continuing to shake the night away, but if they take damage, things will go back to normal. This glitch is stupid easy to perform, with the trick being to call Trish right before you input the super. I believe this occurs because of a weird and unexpected interaction with Trish's assist and Deadpool's super specifically, as other cinematic supers don't cause this bug to take place. It also works against every single character in the game, and it can be used for cheap wins via time over, so if you want to troll other players, definitely try this out. This glitch was even deadlier online, as there's no option there to simply pause and quit out of the match. You either had to wait for the timer to hit 0 or quit prematurely and risk being penalized. I'm not entirely sure if vanilla Marvel 3 had penalties in place for rage quitters, with heated discussions about this topic still being viewable on the old Shoryuken forum archives, but either way, it couldn't have been fun to be on the receiving end of this exploit. Initially, that was about all I could find, but then I stumbled across an old Game FAQs post that explains a really dirty way to use this. With a team of Deadpool, Trish, and Thor, perform the glitch to trap the enemy in place, and then tag in Thor. When he's in, perform his mighty speech to completion to build 5 bars of meter. Then you can pop X Factor and Team Super. This will shred through every life bar in the game, and it's incredibly satisfying when used as a game ender. This was obviously taken out of Ultimate, but the silly part of my brain really misses it here in Vanilla because of how ridiculous it is. Capcom was right to get rid of it though, as after the thrill wears off, you realize that the game's pacing gets destroyed when one of the players literally can't play the game anymore. You're gone, but definitely not forgotten, Deadpool and Trish. Our final glitch for Vanilla Marvel 3 involves Mr. Bionic Arm himself, and it's one that I've always wanted to try out. Start a combo with Hagar's Air Pipe into Rapid Fire Fist Super, and when the combo counter reaches 4 hits, DHC into Spencer's Cinematic Super. The height that Hagar left him at will cause Spencer's Super to desync, leaving the enemy planking on the ground. Remember that trend? Cause I sure do. Anyway, this isn't permanent, as the opponent will pop out after a few seconds, although they're still able to be hit, leading to some pretty stylish combo routes. We can also see that the camera is slightly messed up, but I think this angle looks brilliant. It's super cinematic and it provides a new way to view the characters and stages. To my understanding, the enemy is completely invincible during this state, so you have to wait for them to flip out before striking. Even big OTG supers will whiff here, although hard tagging will set the camera back to its normal coordinates. If you manage to take out a character with this super and then wait a bit when their other character comes in, they remain planking for a few seconds before popping out. To make things crazier, try and defeat the character who just came in. This will cause the super cinematic to continue, albeit in a very buggy manner. If you win a game like this, the KO display will happen way later than it's supposed to, most likely because the enemy hasn't technically died yet when they're planking. The best place to initiate this bug, however, is training mode, as you can experiment with ways to spice things up even more. I had a lot of fun setting up multiple stalking flares with Dormammu, as well as lying in wait with Dante, preparing to land an immediate combo extender. I also found that if you DHC into an install during Spencer's Super, you can trigger the DHC Glitch, meaning that there are now 2 glitches in one. The sky's the limit with a bug like this, as it challenges players to come up with the most demented extensions they can think of, and I'm sure there are a lot of ways to make this even deadlier that I haven't thought of yet. None of the glitches that I've mentioned so far can be performed in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, but don't worry, because that game has plenty of bugs of its own. Speaking of which, as the first Ultimate glitch we'll be covering, I wanted to cover a big one that was taken out almost immediately after the game's launch. Making his grand return to the series was Strider Hiryu, and as he looks better than ever, fans were hotly anticipating the return of their favorite ninja. This is all well and good, but if he's fighting against Morrigan, things can start to break. All we have to do is power up Morrigan and make Strider input his Wall Cling. Right away, we can see that things are going haywire, and it's only gonna get crazier. If you make Morrigan and Strider move towards the right, the camera starts to really freak out, and you can even escape the map. Despite the camera being far away from the stage, the character's positions return to normal once Morrigan's install timer runs out, so you can still connect with certain attacks. Tracking supers like Magneto's level 3 will sometimes connect with the enemy, but it often doesn't, leading me to believe that figuring out character coordinates in this situation is a total crapshoot. At this point, you would have to restart training mode, but certain characters can lead to even weirder effects. Assuming you can still connect with the enemy, non-cinematic level 1s will suffer from incorrect camera placements during their startup, and the lighting can sometimes bug out, although this is inconsistent. The best characters to have in a situation like this are Nemesis and Phoenix Wright, as they both possess supers that will connect with the opponent. Nemesis's level 1 tracks to the enemy's position, and Phoenix's super will cause the cinematic to go horribly wrong. I even ended up flipping the camera around 180 degrees during normal gameplay, and yes, this reverses your controls, so it's very hard to do combos. Despite this, I was still able to thug it out and pull off a Magneto combo, and let me tell you, the flipped controls took a lot of getting used to. The best quality of this glitch is seeing how far you can push the game's camera to its limits, as it struggles hard when attempting to keep up with where the characters are. The more deformed the lighting looks, the better, and this was my main motivation to test out new strategies of chaos, especially with Ultimate's more elaborate supers. During a team super, we can also see what the end of the blue graphic looks like, and it's oddly discomforting. It's impossible to do this glitch on the most recent versions of Ultimate Marvel 3, but if you've got an old console lying around and you can get the game to run without any patches, performing this bug is as easy as pie. A very messy and slightly horrifying pie, but a pie nonetheless. Ever found yourself in a situation like this? One where there are no guarantees except for the sweet release of being chipped to death? Well, with our sponsor, the Kabota Escape, you can escape this. Yeah, this glitch is wild, and it's named after its creator, a Japanese player named Kubo. To set it up, you need one character to be dead, so let's let Shenko die from our germs. Once deceased, let your opponent perform a super. During the super cutscene, you need to hold down your first assist button and perform a snapback with your second assist button. This will let you tag into your dead character for a few seconds, rendering it impossible for you to take damage. Despite this technique being super easy and making you fully invincible for a brief period, it's never seen in high-level play for a few reasons. Firstly, you have to be standing in neutral with your opponent attempting a raw super. If you're already in block stun, this glitch doesn't work, so we can scratch that idea. Secondly, you have to have exactly 2 characters. If you're down to your anchor, you won't be able to escape due to there being no assists you can call. Finally, you're also at the mercy of your opponent when incoming. Characters with really dirty incoming mix like Hagar, Spencer, Dante, etc. can maul enemies who don't block the right way, and if you're already on the ground, you might as well stay there and take the chip damage. Plus, many supers in Ultimate Marvel 3 have really quick recovery, so doing it against one of those is like asking to be attacked. I believe it's possible to punish some supers with lengthier recovery, but these are few and far between, so your chances of landing something like this is extremely unrealistic. The escape doesn't work against supers that have 0 startup frames after the super flash, so it's not applicable in situations like these. I tested the escape against a bunch of supers but was unable to find a genuinely practical application of this bug, so it seems like something you do every once in a while for fun. During my time researching this glitch, I found a thread on GameFAQs claiming that it would change the way Marvel 3 was played, and I have to say, I don't think this aged very well. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the Kabota Escape was ever patched out of the game, so it should still be in the modern versions of Ultimate Marvel 3. That's my way of telling you to go and try it. Out of all of the crazy shenanigans you can get up to in Ultimate Marvel 3, one thing you can't do is control 2 characters at once, as that would end up breaking the game, right? Imagine all the types of jank combo routes you could explore this way. Man, it would be total madness. Wait, dubbed the Cross Assault glitch, I've always wanted to try it out ever since I saw Lythero's video covering it way back in the day, and now is finally my chance. By throwing an energy javelin with Nova and then chipping them out with his orb super, you can ground bounce the dead point character and snap in the enemy's anchor. If timed right, both characters will jump in like this, and the person controlling that team now has access to both characters at the same time. There are two drawbacks however. If the point character dies or stops moving, the glitch will end, resetting the match back to normal. This means you have to constantly stay on the move, doing whatever you can to avoid standing still. A good way of doing this is to get both players on the same side and repeat diagonal jumps for as long as you can. The highlight of this glitch for me is all the cool combos you can do, and even though I haven't quite mastered this glitch yet, there are plenty of YouTube videos that showcase insane attack strings. A little combo I like to do is to repeat Trish and Dante's supers over and over again on the training dummy, as it's really cool to see these two fight side by side in real time. Cross Assault is perhaps the most executionally demanding glitch so far, as it took me a short while to even get it to work in the first place. The initial setup with Nova has very specific timing, and I initially wasn't even sure if I was going to be able to land it. It's one of those techniques that gets more consistent with practice however. Even though I don't have the skills to find anything super busted, it's not hard to find videos and threads online claiming that this will have a major influence on the game's meta, and just like the Kabota Escape, it really didn't. But that doesn't mean the glitch isn't cool. The chances of it happening in a real match are incredibly low, but when you're in training mode, oh yeah, you can have a lot of fun theory crafting combos and setups that would otherwise be totally impossible. The more you put into this glitch, the more you get out of it, and it's super rewarding as a result. Just try not to break the game too much. One rule of both Vanilla and Ultimate is when your opponent does their super, your character is locked in place and they can't do anything during the cinematic, unless you have green hair and a neuron activation inducing outfit. If the enemy blocks Morrigan's grounded level 3 and immediately does a super back, you might notice something weird happening. Normally, the character who acted first in this situation would become blue and black in accordance with the game's lighting, but Morrigan? She has her regular color palette, meaning that she can freely move around. Yep, you can dash, jump, or even do a super back in the state. Because the enemy super isn't active until the cutscene finishes, Morrigan can even walk up and throw them, wasting their meter in the process. Hell, you can even hard tag and punish with another character if you have the right timing. The amount of time you have to move means that Morrigan can escape supers that should be guaranteed to hit, with command grab supers being the most obvious example. This glitch also causes a few visual errors, with one of my favorites involving Virgil turning into one of those theatrical drama masks. I have no idea why this happens, but it's really odd and kind of unsettling. Many characters I tested this against seemed fine however, so I suspect some characters are more affected than others by this bug. Anyway, this is obviously a fantastic way for Morrigan to escape any and all supers, but I would be lying if I said it had realistic uses. Morrigan will only use her level 3 towards the end of a combo, if she even uses it at all, what with how often meter will be spent on Astral Vision, and you would be hard pressed to find a player who will send the ground version of level 3 in neutral. Even if this does happen, most characters can easily dash up and punish Morrigan for her troubles, so the chance of this being effective in a real match is slim to none. I'm not a Morrigan player, so maybe there are some uses for this glitch, but with what I know as of writing this video, I'm not entirely convinced. It's fun to mess around with in training mode however, and it'd be pretty funny to use when playing casually with friends, but if you are actively trying to win, especially in a competitive setting, never try to use this glitch, it simply isn't worth it. As one of Marvel 3's brand new mechanics, TACs provide ways for players to expand on their air combos, as instead of only having access to their regular air routes, they can now sneak in a team aerial combo. This lets you switch characters mid-combo, although it can be broken if the enemy inputs the same direction as you. TACing to different sides introduces different effects, with the big ones being down to build meter and side to steal meter. This makes it a theoretical hard counter to Phoenix, as if you swipe a bar of meter from under her nose, it's impossible for her to transform into Dark Phoenix. To counter this, Phoenix players will usually mash the side break to prevent meter from being stolen, and this is where the glitch comes in. If you TAC, X Factor and then TAC again, the second TAC cannot be broken under any circumstances. Every character in this game can do it from anywhere on the screen, although having to use X Factor makes it very expensive. As far as I can tell, when both players enter a TAC state, the enemy has a short amount of time where they can input a break. Get it right, and both players reset to neutral with the initiated taking damage. Get it wrong, and the combo continues as normal. If the player on the receiving end fails to break the first TAC, the game says, okay, they failed to break, so now let's take control away from them. Quickly X-Factor cancelling into another TAC carries this fail state over, so even if they do input the right break here on the second TAC, they are guaranteed to be hit because of this fail state. This strategy is most useful against players who don't have very high TAC break success rates, and if you can make them think you're going to go in one way, go in another and initiate this glitch. It's not the most egregious of exploits, but it can be used in high-level play, especially if you need to squeeze out a kill with X-Factor. Out of all of the bugs that Capcom had to remove, I wouldn't be surprised if this was at the top of their to-do list, as it's one that allowed players to unlock DLC outfits for free. Back when Ultimate Marvel 3 was still receiving updates, character DLC costumes would come in packs, and if you had at least one, then you were ready to perform this bug. Firstly, select a character that you bought a DLC costume for, and then move the cursor over to the next character you wish to play as. Press cross once to bring up their assists, and then quickly press circle twice to go back to your first character's assists. At this point, the cursor will still be on the second character. Now, hold L1, press circle, and release L1. You have to input this sequence very quickly, but if you're successful, you can use the second character's DLC outfit for free. It turns out that all the DLC outfits are actually on the disc, and when I learned this a few days ago, it took me way back to 2012, man. I miss those times. Because you can use this for every character, you can even use Magneto's removed DLC outfits. The story behind this is that it looked a bit too similar to Spain's King Juan Carlos, and yeah, the resemblance is a bit too similar to be coincidental. This bug has no impact on gameplay, but it's unique in that it lets you unlock paid content for free, and I can't think of any glitches like this in modern fighting games. I mean, Jury had a weird bug recently in Street Fighter 6 in a CPU battle, but as far as players doing a pseudo cheat code on the character select screen, this is seemingly one of a kind. In today's Marvel economy, this glitch doesn't need to exist anymore, as the current gen versions of the game come bundled with all the DLC packs for free from the get-go. There's still no DLC Magneto outfit, but at least I can use this weird-looking Doctor Strange to strike fear into the hearts of evildoers. As the most famous glitch in Marvel 3 history, I've saved the best for last. When TAC Infinites were first discovered, the general consensus was that while effective in theory, you would be hard-pressed to see them in real high-level play, and with how good players are at breaking TACs, these should never happen. Is what I would be saying if I didn't know any better, because when Jan executed Sentinels Infinite to completion during EVO 2012, players started to open their eyes to the world of TAC Infinites. As for how they work, remember that hitstun deterioration thing I mentioned earlier? Well, because these infinites start from a TAC and not a regular hit, they prevent the game from adding hitstun to your combo, so it means that you can keep them going for as long as you can. TAC infinites are extremely commonplace in today's Ultimate Marvel 3 meta, and characters like Dante and Dr. Doom have downright iconic sequences. They usually take place in the corner, but highly skilled players can initiate them mid-screen, and this will never not be hype. Most, if not all characters in the game have their own unique ways of achieving these infinites, and it's all about finding ways to link normals and specials into each other in such a way that allows for them to be repeated. These techniques are a result of lab monsters grinding out all possible options for characters to interact with one another, and you can easily find the more obscure ones on YouTube channels like Hate and Please. This account uses TAS inputs to show off what's possible in the game's engine, and even though a human will most likely never be able to pull stuff like this off, finding out that ridiculous sequences like this is possible in general really blew me away. The greatest strengths of including TAC Infinites into your game plan are that, assuming you finish them, you will build 5 bars a meter and waste a lot of time, making them great for time over victories. The only downside is that a lot of them are really hard, and if you mess it up, you can easily lose the game.
Has done it! No! Oh! It couldn't happen any worse! Ray!
If you ever need to kill some time, I recommend searching UMVC3 character TAC Infinite, and witnessing how odd some of these combos can be. They're always going to be entertaining, and a combo like this gets the Carnage seal of approval. Jokes aside, TAC Infinites have rightfully earned their place on the Marvel 3 Mount Rushmore, and it just wouldn't be the same game without them. If you decide to learn these, best of luck, and may the TAC guide you well in life. I've gotta say, big shoutouts to Sugar, because without it, there's no way I could have got this video done on time. The best part is that this is merely a drop in the bucket of Marvel vs. Capcom 3 glitches, as there are plenty more that I haven't mentioned. If you're keen to learn more, I suggest reading through the Shoryuken Glitch forum, as you'll find plenty more information to dig your teeth into, and I personally had a blast doing research there. You would never think that Vanilla and Ultimate Marvel 3 have glitches this severe on the surface level, but the more you play, the more you start to believe it. This whole game is barely held together by duct tape the developers found on Facebook Marketplace, and with how many things can happen at any and all times during a match, it makes total sense that a lot of bugs found their way into the final builds of these games. Okay, if you made it all the way to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time, and I hope you had fun. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.